My guest today is Margaret Lomas of Destiny Financial. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on In Her Shoes.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited about today's episode because we are touching on an area that's very close to my heart, and that is women and finances. Now, you're the best-selling author of numerous books on property, on money. You host 2 shows on that subject area. How did you get to be the expert in this area?
Well, I think like many women, my career really took off out of necessity. And many years ago, when I was deciding really what to do with myself, I'd been in training and development, and I'd had my own training company, which allowed me to work while the kids were small. I guess originally I'd started looking at my own finances and trying to work out better ways to plan for the future. So many people don't do that. And when I was in my 30s, people really didn't think about the future. And so I wanted to be able to make my future a little better, and I was discovering a lot of things. I was really good at getting information for myself and disseminating that in a way that I understood it. Then a lot of my friends started to say to me, oh, you seem to know so much about this sort of thing, can you teach us? Which I started to do. And I guess the next thing for me, like a lot of women, is I thought I can make a business out of this. And I started Destiny Financial Solutions, really just coaching other people on how to get ahead.
When it comes to women and investing, are enough of us in the investing game? Are we looking at our finances? I know you said in your 30s a lot of people weren't, but have we caught up?
We haven't caught up at all, unfortunately. What I find is women who are part of a couple will sometimes be the person who gets in there and does all of the legwork, but the decision to invest comes about usually as a result of what the couple has decided. So it's a joint decision. Women who aren't investing with somebody else, who are investing alone, generally don't think too much about their own future, mostly because they don't get the time. Women are so much on a mission these days and headed somewhere. And we focus very much on today and tomorrow and maybe next week, but we rarely do too much planning in general.
Now, a lot of our viewers, most of our viewers, are businesswomen. They may be in their own business or they may be working for somebody else. For those who are in their own business, when they have that ability to perhaps not have a cap on the ceiling of their income, but they work in the business, what should they be aware of when it comes to investing and being in their own business?
There's a whole lot of things that I find women in particular don't think about. And I guess it's because they're not normally, or they haven't traditionally been in that financial headspace anyway. And even though we've come so far as women, it still tends to be the male who has that role of being the financial person. What women tend to do in their own businesses, in a lot of ways, they tend to treat it like a family, and they're nurturers. Women are the nurturers in their own businesses. And what that means is that they're focusing on their staff, they're focusing on being a good leader, they're focusing on the now and what we're going to do today and how we're going to make sure that everybody's happy and make that business successful to a degree. But the 2 things I think they miss out on is, first of all, they miss out on thinking about what's going to happen on that day that I no longer work in this business. And that in itself results in 2 things. Firstly, they rarely put in place the kind of people who can do their job.
Right.
They tend to hang on to the responsibilities, and even when they think they've got a general manager or a CEO under them, they rarely ever really hand over the complete reins of their business to somebody else, which means that they are stuck in that business and the business success is reliant totally on them. But the second thing it means is they're not thinking about what does happen when I stop and how will I derive an income. So they're not laying down the plans that they need to create passive income.
When it comes to women working for others, their employees, I know many people rely on their superannuation as being, well, that's what's going to be available for me. Is that enough?
I think everybody knows that superannuation isn't going to be enough, and if we said conservatively, and I think everybody's heard the figures, that you'll need $1 million in super just to make around about $60,000 a year. And let's face it, many successful women are already earning much more than $60,000 a year. $60,000 a year is great in comparison to the 11 you would get on a pension, but in comparison to the 150 you might be earning in your last year of work, it's a severe cut in your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So if you need $1 million just to make the 60, you're going to need $2 million to make 120. Nobody gets $2 million in super just from their employer contributions, even if they top it up a little bit themselves.
Now, I know Destiny Financial has for years provided mentoring and coaching in this area. Where could we expect to start?
Well, what we do at Destiny Financial Solutions is mainly centred around a property portfolio, and the reason that is because it's pretty easy to get a fair amount of information today on how to invest your money into assets like managed funds and shares. It's pretty easy to understand how a superannuation fund will also invest your monies into those areas too. But when it comes to property, people think they're going to be able to just buy a property and sit it there and it's going to be fine, and when they retire they'll have this great asset. But it doesn't really work that way. People buy the wrong properties, they go about it the wrong way because their experience with property is about owner-occupied property. You know, they're likely to buy the house next door, which isn't a good investment. It's a great place to live, but not necessarily a good investment. So what we try to do with people is we first of all try to get them to sit down and have a look at the time frame that they've got until they think they'd like to start generating a passive income. Within that time frame, we talk to them about how to buy property in a way that it's going to work, how to buy the right kind of property, but also how to manage your finances on a daily basis as well. That's all part and parcel of the same thing.
We've covered quite a few areas that women may want to think about when it comes to getting that passive income, which again, not a lot of us think about earning income when we're not actually working. So just to bring this all together, perhaps 3 things that we can do to start our education or taking action towards getting that passive income.
Now remember, I think everybody has to remember that we earn, or we should be looking at planning for our future in 3 ways. We first of all have to use the income that we do get in better ways. The second thing we have to do is we have to invest in some way every day. And the third thing we have to do is become involved somehow in business, either in someone else's business and work toward being successful there, or in your own business. Because in essence, we then have 3 income streams, and we need those 3 happening at the same time. So while we're earning an income that's paying for our daily expenses, we need to be investing and looking at business in order to build up something for tomorrow. To start, it's really important that everybody, no matter what their income is, has a look at budgeting. And I know that sounds really lame. Everybody says, I know how to budget, but they really don't. And most people will always live within their income. So, you know, I speak to women who have 60,000 a year, some who have 30 and some who have 150. There's very little difference to the amount that those 3 people will save and invest because we live to that income. So women do, and people need to sit down with whatever they're earning as an income and decide how much of that they can afford to put into either investment or business, and then do that first. Budgeting sounds easy, but it's actually not. And it's not the formulation of a budget that's hard, it's what to do to monitor and control it so that you're seeing problems before they arise. You know, I find everybody can sit down and say, well, I've got $1,000 coming in and I can budget for $900 going out. But when they get to the end of that period and say, oh, well, you know, 1,000 went out, I'll try to be better next time, that's not how you budget. The way you budget is to say, well, I've got 1,000 coming in, 900's going out. When I get to the halfway mark or the 1/3 mark, I'll see how I'm going so I can see whether I'm going to meet that goal, and I'll adjust if I'm not going to meet it. There's a lot of tricks to being able to budget, but if you can't do it, you can't do the other things, which is invest and start businesses and work in business.
It's a big subject. Thank you so much for opening up our eyes and ears and thoughts to a new way forward. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.